Welcome to our college briefing program. Today, we've got some gripping stories to share. First off, beachgoers in Florida's Gulf Coast are on high alert after 3 swimmers were attacked by sharks in 2 separate incidents. One woman tragically lost her arm, while 2 teenage girls suffered significant and minor injuries. Beaches were temporarily closed but have reopened with warnings about dangerous marine life. Stay safe out there, folks. Next up, North Carolina is celebrating after a thrilling victory over West Virginia, securing their spot in the College World Series. Vance Honeycutt was the star, smashing a home run on the first pitch and ending the opener with a walk-off 2-run shot. With this win, North Carolina joins Florida State and Virginia in the series, with 5 more spots still to be decided. And in the world of ice hockey, the Edmonton Oilers faced a tough start in the Stanley Cup final, losing 3-0 to the Florida Panthers in the opening game. Despite outplaying the Panthers in the first period, the Oilers couldn't overcome the stellar performance of Panthers goalkeeper Sergei Bobrovsky. The Panthers are now just 3 victories away from their first Stanley Cup win. Please stay tuned for the detailed coverage of these stories and more. BBC, beachgoers in Florida's Gulf Coast have been urged to remain vigilant following 3 shark attacks on swimmers within a short span. A woman in Walton County suffered critical injuries, leading to the amputation of part of her arm, while 2 teenage girls were attacked in waist-deep water just hours later. One girl sustained significant injuries to her leg and hand, while the other had minor foot injuries. The attacks prompted authorities to patrol the shoreline and temporarily close some beaches. Experts suggest that the presence of small fish near the shore and the timing of the attacks may have contributed to the incidents. The University of Florida's International Shark Attack File reports that most shark attacks in the state are by requiem sharks, which thrive in warm waters and often feed near sandbars. Associated Press, North Carolina's Vance Honeycutt delivered another stellar performance, leading the Tar Heels to a 2-1 victory over West Virginia and securing their spot in the College World Series. Honeycutt hit a home run on the first pitch of the game, following his walk-off 2-run shot in the series opener. The Tar Heels, aiming for their first CWS title, will compete in their 12th appearance. Despite a strong effort from West Virginia, which reached its first super regional in school history, North Carolina's pitching and timely hitting proved decisive. The game marked the end of head coach Randy Mazey's tenure with the Mountaineers, as he retires with a commendable record and multiple Coach of the Year honors. The Globe and Mail, the Edmonton Oilers' return to the Stanley Cup final after 18 years was met with a 3-0 defeat by the Florida Panthers in the opening game of the series. Despite outshooting the Panthers early on, the Oilers couldn't overcome the brilliance of Florida's goaltender Sergei Bobrovsky. Carter Verhaeghe and Evan Rodriguez scored for the Panthers, who are now 3 wins away from their first Stanley Cup. The Oilers, led by stars Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, had a remarkable turnaround season but struggled to find the net in Game 1. The Panthers, seeking redemption after last year's final loss, showed resilience and determination, with Bobrovsky's performance being a key highlight. The Sydney Morning Herald, the conviction of Robert Farquharson for the murder of his 3 sons on Father's Day 2005 has cast a spotlight on the troubling use of unreliable forensic evidence in Australian courts. Similar to the cases of Henry Keogh, David Eastman, and Lindy Chamberlain, Farquharson's trial leaned heavily on questionable expert testimonies regarding medical, traffic reconstruction, and vehicle sinking evidence. Despite recommendations from scientific bodies like the United States National Academy of Sciences and the Australian Academy of Science, Australian courts continue to admit forensic evidence without proper validation. This practice has led to wrongful convictions and a crisis in the handling of expert opinion evidence. The U.S. National Academy of Sciences has expressed concerns about the reliability of forensic methods, highlighting error rates and biases. Australian courts lack the necessary rules and procedures to effectively regulate such evidence, often leading to unfair trials. Defense counsels also fail to challenge the validity of expert opinions effectively. To address this, an explicit reliability standard for expert evidence is needed, along with an independent panel to provide scientific assistance on controversial subjects and a criminal cases review commission to rectify potential wrongful convictions. BBC, adults and teens are increasingly turning to dumb phones to reduce screen time and combat the addictive nature of smartphones. With social media designed to trigger the brain similarly to addictive substances, many, like 16-year-old Luke Martin from Canada, have found themselves trapped in a cycle of constant usage. Research indicates that a significant portion of young children now own smartphones, raising concerns about their impact on mental health. Some campaigners advocate for age limits on smartphone use, while others opt for simpler devices that only offer basic functions like texts and calls. Parents are also adopting dumb phones to be more present with their families. Sales of these low-tech devices have surged in North America, with stores like Dumb Wireless in Los Angeles catering to this demand. However, the transition is challenging due to schools requiring certain apps and peer pressure among children. Innovations like the Unplug device, which blocks specific apps, offer some solutions. Companies like Techless are developing sleek, intentionally boring phones like the Wise Phone 2 to promote healthier usage habits. Despite initial resistance, users like Luke find significant benefits in reduced screen time and improved well-being. The Sydney Morning Herald, Robert Pataki, a renowned designer who oversaw the creation of over 3,000 products, passed away recently, leaving behind a legacy in the design industry. Born in Hungary in 1948, Pataki's family fled the revolution in 1956 and eventually settled in Australia. He graduated in industrial design from the Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology in 1972 and began his career at John Holland Construction. Pataki worked with major companies like Crown Beko Lighting, Philips, and ACI Design Centre, and later became the general manager and design director of PA Consulting Australia. In 1987, he founded the Neo Group of companies, including Neo Technics, the largest industrial design consultancy in the Southern Hemisphere. His expertise spanned appliances, medical equipment, homewares, and packaging. Some of his iconic designs include the Cambrook Power Board and the Britax Rainsford Safe and Sound baby capsule. Pataki was actively involved with the Design Institute of Australia and served on various advisory committees. He received numerous accolades, including a Medal of the Order of Australia in 2022 for his contributions to design. He is survived by his wife, Jackie, his daughters, and grandchildren, and will be remembered as a legend in the design world. Yahoo US. A 21-year-old man was shot on the University of Minnesota's Minneapolis campus on Saturday evening, but his injuries were not life-threatening. According to a university spokesperson, the victim is not affiliated with the university. Police responded to reports of multiple gunshots near the intersection of Washington and Walnut Avenues SE around 7 p.m. An emergency alert from the university indicated that 4 suspects, appearing to be in their teens or early 20s, fled the scene in a gray Dodge Charger. The victim was transported on a stretcher, and police cordoned off an area near the Graduate Minneapolis Hotel to investigate shell casings found at the scene. South China Morning Post. In the small coastal town of Santa Ana in the Philippines, tensions are simmering beneath its picturesque beaches and bustling casinos due to the geopolitical rivalry between the U.S. and China. Santa Ana and Lalo, both located in Cagayan Province, have been spotlighted as new sites under the U.S.-Philippines Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, EDCA, allowing for significant military activities and the prepositioning of defense materials. Situated about 400 kilometers from Taiwan, these municipalities are strategically important as potential flashpoints in the event of conflict with China, which views Taiwan as a breakaway province. Local leaders and residents, like restaurant owner Rosario Rambada, express concerns about safety and the potential for conflict, while others, such as former overseas worker Anna Bartolome, feel a sense of helplessness. The U.S. has reassured its support for the Philippines amidst escalating territorial disputes in the South China Sea, emphasizing their long-standing mutual defense treaty. The presence of Chinese traders and businesses in Santa Ana adds another layer of complexity, with local officials like Romeo Asuncion acknowledging their economic contributions but also raising concerns about potential espionage. Associated Press. In Lexington, Kentucky, Trey Poozer pitched 7 stellar innings in a one-hitter performance, leading Kentucky to a dominant 10-0 victory over Oregon State in the NCAA tournament's Lexington Super Regional Opener. Poozer, who improved to a 7-1 record, struck out 8 and walked 4, with only one Oregon State runner reaching third base. Jackson Nove closed the game with 2 hitless innings, striking out 4. Ryan Nicholson drove in 3 runs, including a 2-run homer in the 7th inning, which was part of a 7-run explosion that sealed the win. Oregon State's Aiden May pitched into the 6th inning, allowing 3 runs on 7 hits, but the Beavers' bullpen faltered, with Joey Munt, A.J. Hutchison, and Noah Ferguson unable to contain Kentucky's offense. Elijah Hainline had the only hit for Oregon State, a single in the 2nd inning. Kentucky, now 1 win away from advancing to the College World Series, will face Oregon State again on Sunday. CNN. In Hong Kong, vigilante taxi drivers have taken matters into their own hands to combat illegal Uber drivers, with undercover operations resulting in dramatic confrontations and viral videos. These taxi drivers, frustrated by the government's failure to regulate Uber, have handed over unsuspecting Uber drivers to the police. However, this vigilante approach has backfired, leading to public backlash against the taxi drivers, who are now criticized for their own poor service and opportunistic behavior. Passengers have taken to social media to share their negative experiences with taxis, and some have retaliated by reporting law-breaking taxi drivers to the authorities. The tension has escalated to the point where Hong Kong leader John Lee has called for calm and urged taxi drivers to refrain from such actions. Despite the controversy, Uber continues to thrive in Hong Kong, operating in a legal gray area and providing an alternative to traditional taxis. The government is expected to release a study on ride-hailing services soon, and there are calls for a more balanced approach to regulation that would allow both taxis and ride-sharing services to coexist. South China Morning Post, reflecting on the 5th anniversary of the 2019 Hong Kong protests, many former protesters like Wilson Low have found themselves disconnected from their homeland. Low, now living in Dubai, recalls the intense involvement and hope he felt during the protests, which have since been crushed by the imposition of the national security law. Thousands were arrested during the unrest, and many are still awaiting legal resolution. The political landscape in Hong Kong has dramatically shifted, with the opposition decimated and the legislature now composed entirely of pro-Beijing figures. Some academics argue for reconciliation and support for young protesters to reintegrate into society, but the government has shown little inclination towards such measures. The protests have also led to a significant emigration wave, with many Hong Kongers relocating to countries like the UK and Canada. Former Government Minister Anthony Chung and other observers note a growing apathy and disengagement among residents, particularly the youth, who feel disillusioned by the current political climate. The Democratic Party, once a major opposition force, struggles to remain relevant in this new era, facing financial constraints and a lack of public engagement. Despite these challenges, party members like Chairman Low Kin Hei continue to advocate for a voice representing Hong Kongers, emphasizing the importance of maintaining a presence and fostering rational discussion in society. CBC, Savannah Sutherland, a 20-year-old athlete from Borden, Saskatchewan, demonstrated exceptional prowess at the NCAA Outdoor Track and Field Championships held at Hayward Field in Eugene, Oregon. Competing in the women's 400-meter hurdles, Sutherland set a new Canadian record twice. On Thursday, she clocked in at 54.04 seconds during the preliminary round, only to surpass her own record with an impressive 53.26 seconds in Saturday's final. Despite her remarkable performance, she secured a silver medal, with American Jasmine Jones taking gold in a meet record time of 53.15 seconds. Sutherland, representing the University of Michigan, is now poised to compete in the Canadian Olympic Trials in Montreal, aiming for a spot in the Paris Olympics. Yahoo US. The introduction of the 12-team college football playoff is set to bring both opportunities and challenges for the Big Ten Conference. A key scenario to consider involves the potential for debates over which teams should make the playoff, especially when the top two teams are already secure. The real contention arises with the third, fourth, and fifth place teams, particularly if the third and fourth place teams face off late in the season. The dilemma centers on whether the loser of that game, potentially still stronger than the fifth place team, should be penalized. Mark Rogers from the Voice of College Football and Tim Prangley from Trojans Wire emphasize that the Big Ten must address these conference-specific disputes proactively, rather than relying on national rankings or polls to resolve such complexities. Associated Press. At the NCAA Women's Outdoor Track and Field Championships in Eugene, Oregon, Mackenzie Long of Mississippi shone brightly, claiming titles in the 100 meters, 200 meters, and the 400-meter relay. Long's victories included a personal best 21.83 seconds in the 200 meters and a program record 42.34 seconds in the relay with teammates Akila Lewis, Gabrielle Matthews, and Jania Bowers. Arkansas dominated the team competition, with Nikki Shaw Price setting meet and collegiate records in the 400 meters at 48.89 seconds, leading a 1-2-3-4 finish for the Razorbacks. Arkansas also set records in the 1,600-meter relay, finishing in 3 minutes, 17.96 seconds. Other notable performances included Stanford's Juliette Whitaker breaking a school record in the 800 meters, and Florida's Parker Valby setting an NCAA record in the 5,000 meters. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.